On April 11, 1970, the world watched in anticipation as Apollo 13 stood poised for launch at Kennedy Space Center. This mission, following the historic success of Apollo 11's moon landing and Apollo 12's precision, was set to further solidify America's dominance in space exploration. Commanded by veteran astronaut Jim Lovell, with Jack Swigert as the command module pilot and Fred Haise as the lunar module pilot, Apollo 13 was ready to embark on a journey to the Fra Mauro Highlands on the Moon. Jim Lovell, already a hero of the space program with missions Gemini 7, Gemini 12, and Apollo 8 under his belt, was no stranger to the rigors of space travel. Lovell's calm demeanor and extensive experience made him the ideal commander for this mission. Jack Swigert, a last-minute replacement for Ken Mattingly who was grounded due to exposure to German measles, brought his expertise as a test pilot to the team. Fred Haise, also on his first spaceflight, was an accomplished pilot and engineer. As dawn broke over the Florida coast, the atmosphere at Kennedy Space Center was electric. The Saturn V rocket, towering at 363 feet, stood ready on Launch Pad 39A. This marvel of engineering, composed of 3 stages and generating 7.6 million pounds of thrust, was the most powerful rocket ever built. The astronauts, having completed their pre-flight routines, boarded the spacecraft, taking their positions in the command module Odyssey. The countdown proceeded without major issues, and at precisely 13:13 Eastern Standard Time, the engines roared to life, shaking the ground with an immense force. The massive Saturn V lifted off, ascending through the atmosphere with a fiery trail. Stage separations occurred flawlessly, and soon Apollo 13 was in Earth orbit, ready for the translunar injection burn that would propel them toward the Moon. As Apollo 13 orbited the Earth, the crew performed final checks before igniting the SIVB stage for translunar injection. This critical burn, executed with pinpoint accuracy, sent the spacecraft hurtling toward the Moon at a speed of approximately 24,500 miles per hour. The journey to the Moon, a distance of roughly 240,000 miles, would take about 3 days. During this initial phase, the crew settled into their routines. They conducted system checks, navigational adjustments, and maintained constant communication with Mission Control in Houston. The command module Odyssey, their home for the mission, was a complex vessel equipped with state-of-the-art technology, while the lunar module Aquarius, though not yet in use, was prepared for the eventual moon landing. Back on Earth, the families of the astronauts watched anxiously, offering their support and enduring the uncertainty that came with their loved ones being millions of miles away. As Apollo 13 continued its voyage, the crew remained focused on their objectives, unaware of the impending crisis that would soon turn their mission of exploration into a desperate fight for survival. 56 hours into the mission, Apollo 13 was cruising smoothly toward the Moon. The crew had completed a live television broadcast, showing the inside of the spacecraft and demonstrating life aboard Apollo 13. Spirits were high, and everything seemed to be going according to plan. However, a routine procedure was about to change the course of the mission dramatically. On the night of April 13th, the astronauts were instructed to perform a standard cryostir procedure. This involved turning on the fans inside the liquid oxygen tanks to stir the contents and prevent the oxygen from stratifying. It was a routine operation, one that had been performed on previous missions without incident. Jack Swigert, following instructions from Mission Control, flipped the switch to activate the fans. Almost immediately, the crew heard a loud bang, followed by a shuddering of the entire spacecraft. Warning lights flashed, and alarms blared. The command module's control panel lit up with indicators showing multiple system failures. Jim Lovell looked out the window and saw something alarming. A cloud of gas venting into space. It was oxygen, rapidly escaping from one of the service module's tanks. Swigert's calm but urgent voice transmitted the now famous message to Mission Control.
Houston, we have a problem.
It was an understatement. The explosion had severely damaged the service module, causing a massive loss of oxygen and crippling the spacecraft's power system. The command module Odyssey, which relied on fuel cells powered by liquid oxygen, was losing its primary source of electricity. In Houston, Mission Control quickly grasped the severity of the situation. The initial assessment revealed that the number 2 oxygen tank had ruptured, and the number 1 tank was also rapidly losing pressure. The crew was down to a critical level of oxygen, which meant they were losing both their breathable air and their main source of power. The lunar landing was immediately scrubbed. The new mission was to bring the astronauts home safely. Engineers and flight controllers, led by the determined and unflappable flight director Gene Kranz, scrambled to assess the damage and devise a plan. The first priority was to stabilize the spacecraft systems and ensure the crew's immediate survival. The lunar module Aquarius, which had its own independent life support and power systems, was quickly designated as the crew's lifeboat. Inside the command module, the crew worked tirelessly to manage the crisis. They shut down all non-essential systems to conserve power and transferred critical functions to the lunar module. Lovell, Swigert, and Hayes moved into the lunar module, leaving the command module powered down except for the bare essentials needed for communication and navigation. Despite the dire circumstances, the crew maintained their composure and professionalism. Their training and teamwork were put to the ultimate test as they adapted to the rapidly changing situation. They communicated constantly with mission control, providing updates and receiving new instructions. The immediate challenge was to configure the lunar module to support all 3 astronauts for the journey back to Earth, a task it was not originally designed to do. The explosion had transformed Apollo 13 from a mission of exploration into a tense, high-stakes rescue operation. The world watched and waited, as the fate of the astronauts hung in the balance. The ingenuity and determination of both the crew and mission control would be pushed to their limits in the days ahead. In Houston, mission control faced an unprecedented challenge. The explosion aboard Apollo 13 had crippled the spacecraft, and the lives of Jim Lovell, Jack Swigert, and Fred Hayes hung in the balance. The team of flight directors, engineers, and support staff, led by Flight Director Gene Kranz, immediately sprang into action. The priority was clear: stabilize the situation and bring the astronauts home safely. Gene Kranz, known for his calm under pressure and his white vest, which became a symbol of his leadership, was determined. He famously declared, "Failure is not an option." This mantra would guide mission control as they worked tirelessly to solve one problem after another. The first step was to understand the extent of the damage and devise a plan to ensure the astronauts' immediate survival. The situation was dire. The explosion had caused a significant loss of oxygen and severely damaged the service module. The command module, Odyssey, which housed the crew and the main life support systems, was losing power rapidly. The only viable option was to use the lunar module, Aquarius, as a lifeboat. However, Aquarius was designed to support 2 astronauts for 2 days on the Moon, not 3 astronauts for the return journey to Earth. Engineers and flight controllers worked around the clock, brainstorming and testing solutions. They had to configure the lunar module to sustain the crew for the 4-day journey back. This involved complex calculations to manage the limited resources of water, power, and oxygen. Every decision had to be precise, and every action coordinated seamlessly between mission control and the crew. Communication was crucial. The astronauts, despite the crisis, remained composed and professional. They executed instructions meticulously, providing real-time feedback to mission control. The collaboration between the ground team and the astronauts was a testament to the rigorous training and mutual trust that underpinned the Apollo program. One of the most critical tasks was managing the spacecraft's carbon dioxide levels. The lunar module's life support system wasn't designed to handle the output from 3 astronauts. The crew and mission control had to devise an ingenious solution, adapting the square carbon dioxide scrubbers from the command module to fit the round openings in the lunar module. Using only the materials available on the spacecraft, plastic bags, cardboard, and duct tape, they created a makeshift adapter. This mailbox device effectively filtered the carbon dioxide, ensuring the astronauts could breathe safely. Another pressing challenge was the spacecraft's navigation. Without the power of the command module, traditional navigational tools were unusable. The crew had to rely on manual navigation techniques, using the sun and stars to align the spacecraft. This required incredible precision and skill, as even a minor error could result in missing Earth entirely. Throughout this ordeal, The resilience and ingenuity of the mission control team were on full display. They devised a sequence of power-up procedures to conserve the lunar module's limited battery life while ensuring the spacecraft remained on course. Every watt of power, every drop of water, and every breath of oxygen was meticulously accounted for. As the hours turned into days, the world watched anxiously. News of the crisis had spread, and people around the globe held their breath, hoping for a safe return. The collaboration between the astronauts and mission control exemplified human ingenuity and determination. It was a race against time, and every second counted. Despite the overwhelming challenges, the crew remained focused and determined. Their professionalism, combined with the unwavering support from mission control, kept the mission on track. As they neared Earth, preparations began for the final and most critical phase: re-entry. The ingenuity and teamwork that had brought them this far would be crucial in the days to come as they prepared to bring Apollo 13 safely back home. As Apollo 13 navigated its way back to Earth, the astronauts faced a daunting and perilous journey. Their new mission was not one of exploration, but of survival. With the command module Odyssey largely powered down, the lunar module Aquarius served as their lifeboat, but it was not designed for the long voyage home. Every resource had to be meticulously conserved and every system carefully managed to ensure they made it back safely. One of the key challenges was maintaining the correct trajectory. With the guidance systems compromised, the astronauts had to rely on manual navigation. They used the sun, the moon, and the stars as reference points, performing mid-course corrections with incredible precision. These adjustments were critical. Any deviation from their path could mean missing Earth entirely. Lovell's extensive experience and calm demeanor were invaluable during these tense moments. Communication with mission control was constant and vital. The ground team worked tirelessly to provide the crew with precise instructions for every maneuver. They calculated the burn times needed for the lunar module's descent engine to adjust their course and speed. The accuracy required was mind-boggling, as even the smallest error could have catastrophic consequences. Inside the cramped confines of Aquarius, life was far from comfortable. The lunar module was not built for prolonged habitation. Temperatures plummeted, making the environment cold and inhospitable. The astronauts wore their spacesuits to stay warm, and condensation formed on every surface. Sleep was almost impossible, and exhaustion was a constant challenge. Fred Hayes faced additional difficulties, suffering from a urinary tract infection due to the lack of proper facilities. Despite his discomfort, he continued to perform his duties, demonstrating remarkable resilience and dedication. The physical and psychological strain on all three astronauts was immense, but they remained focused on their tasks. Water was another critical concern. The lunar module's supply was limited, and rationing was necessary. The crew had to manage their intake carefully, using as little as possible while still maintaining their health. Dehydration was a constant threat, and every sip had to be measured and conserved. Power conservation was equally crucial. The lunar module's batteries were designed for a 2-day mission, not the extended journey back to Earth. The crew and mission control devised a series of power-down procedures to stretch the limited supply. Non-essential systems were turned off, and even the most basic tasks required careful planning to avoid depleting the batteries. As they approached Earth, the most critical phase of the mission loomed: re-entry. The command module Odyssey would have to be powered up again and brought back online. This process, known as the power-up procedure, was complex and fraught with risk. Every switch and circuit had to be activated in the correct sequence to avoid short circuits or system failures. Mission Control worked tirelessly to develop a detailed plan, simulating every step on Earth before transmitting the instructions to the crew. The astronauts followed these instructions meticulously, reactivating the command module's systems with painstaking precision. This task required immense concentration, as any mistake could jeopardize their safe return. As they neared the Earth, the tension was palpable. The world watched, united in hope and anticipation. The ingenuity and determination of both the crew and mission control had brought them this far, but the final hurdle was the most challenging yet. The re-entry process, a fiery descent through the Earth's atmosphere, would test the limits of their endurance and the spacecraft's design. The journey home was a testament to human resilience, ingenuity, and the unbreakable spirit of exploration. The Apollo 13 mission, which began with such high hopes and faced such overwhelming odds, had become a powerful symbol of what humanity could achieve in the face of adversity. As they prepared for re-entry, the crew knew that their survival depended on the strength of their teamwork and the unwavering support of mission control. As Apollo 13 approached Earth, the crew faced the final and most dangerous phase of their journey, re-entry. The spacecraft would have to endure the extreme heat and forces of re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. Any miscalculation or malfunction could result in tragedy. The world watched with bated breath. The lunar module, Aquarius, had served its purpose as a lifeboat and would now be jettisoned. This step was both symbolic and practical, as the command module needed to be as light as possible for re-entry. The crew transferred back into Odyssey, bringing essential equipment and samples with them. Saying goodbye to Aquarius was bittersweet, as it had been their sanctuary during the crisis. With Aquarius gone, the command module was on its own. The heat shield, designed to withstand temperatures of up to 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit, would be put to the ultimate test. The crew strapped in tightly, bracing for the intense G-forces and searing heat. Re-entry was a violent process, with the spacecraft plummeting through the atmosphere at speeds exceeding 24,000 miles per hour. As Odyssey hurtled toward Earth, communication with mission control was temporarily lost due to the ionization blackout, a period when the superheated plasma surrounding the spacecraft blocked radio signals. This period, lasting approximately 4 minutes, was filled with tension and anxiety for both the crew and those on the ground. In Houston, mission control and the astronauts' families waited in silence, hoping for the best but fearing the worst. Finally, Odyssey emerged from the blackout, and the reassuring voice of Jim Lovell crackled over the radio. "Houston, this is Odyssey. It's good to see you again." Cheers erupted in mission control as the relief and joy were palpable. The spacecraft had survived the worst, but the mission wasn't over yet. The command module descended on its parachutes, slowing its descent and ensuring a safe splashdown. The splashdown occurred in the South Pacific Ocean, near the recovery ship USS Iwo Jima. The command module hit the water with a jarring impact, but the astronauts were safe. Navy divers quickly reached the spacecraft, securing it and assisting the crew in their exit. Jim Lovell, Jack Swigert, and Fred Hayes were exhausted but alive, their harrowing journey finally over. As the astronauts were brought aboard the USS Iwo Jima, the world celebrated their safe return. The mission that had started with high hopes for a lunar landing had become a dramatic survival story, capturing the hearts and minds of people around the globe. The courage and resilience of the Apollo 13 crew, along with the ingenuity and determination of mission control, had turned potential tragedy into a triumph of human spirit and teamwork. In the aftermath, the story of Apollo 13 became a powerful symbol of perseverance and innovation. It highlighted the risks of space exploration and the incredible capabilities of those who take on these challenges. The lessons learned from Apollo 13 influenced future missions, improving safety protocols and engineering solutions. The astronauts were hailed as heroes, and their story continues to inspire generations. The mission's legacy is a testament to what can be achieved when faced with adversity. The media coverage was extensive, with newspapers, magazines, and television networks chronicling every detail of the harrowing journey. The public marveled at the resilience of the astronauts and the brilliance of NASA's mission control. The phrase "Houston, we've had a problem" became an iconic expression of calm in the face of crisis. Jim Lovell, in particular, emerged as a symbol of leadership and steadiness under pressure. His experience and composure were crucial in guiding the crew through the crisis. Fred Hayes, despite suffering from a urinary tract infection and enduring severe physical discomfort, remained focused and contributed significantly to the team's survival. Jack Swigert, the last-minute replacement for Ken Mattingly, proved his mettle and was instrumental in navigating the spacecraft back to Earth. Apollo 13 also had a significant cultural impact. It inspired books, documentaries, and movies, most notably the 1995 film Apollo 13, directed by Ron Howard and starring Tom Hanks as Jim Lovell. Apollo 13's greatest achievement was not in reaching the moon, but in bringing its crew safely back to Earth. As we continue to venture into space, the lessons of Apollo 13 guide and inspire us, reminding us of both the dangers and the incredible rewards of pushing the boundaries of human endeavor. The story of Apollo 13 is not just a tale of survival and heroism. It is also a story of profound lessons and lasting impacts on space exploration. With plans to return to the moon and eventually send humans to Mars, the story of Apollo 13 serves as a guiding light. It reminds us that space travel is fraught with challenges, but also rich with opportunities for innovation and discovery. The mission's legacy is a testament to the indomitable human spirit and our relentless pursuit of knowledge and exploration. In conclusion, Apollo 13's successful return was not just a rescue mission, but a profound learning experience that has shaped the trajectory of space exploration. It stands as a beacon of what humanity can achieve when faced with adversity, and it continues to inspire and inform the ongoing quest to explore the final frontier.